That is beautiful. Welcome, Buzzketeers, to Buzzsaw 2020, which you are listening to with Sean Stone, and I'm joined by Jennifer Shakeshaft.
Hello, everybody.
We've got Miss Gabby over here on the sound mix.
Hello, everybody out there in the universe.
And Miss Casey on the camera.
Casey camera.
She can't talk.
We muted her.
Yeah, only picture, no sound. So that's the theory. That's a piece from The Theory of Everything, which is a very beautiful soundtrack. Jenny just told me that the composer passed away, which I did not know.
Yeah, Johan Johansson. He's incredible. He's done so many different movies, but his ability to just transcend through music he's one of my favorite composers.
And he lives on with his music. That is the beauty of life. I really believe we live on. We are the living beings because of what we create on this planet, not what we take. And with that mentality and that message, we're going to start an episode of Buzzsaw right now with Rowan Gabrielle, who is known for her work on sacred commerce. So I kind of want to leave it to her to express what sacred commerce means. Rowan, why don't you tell us a little bit about what it is and, well, we can get into that, how you discovered it.
So, sacred commerce is all really about, we call it the return to self. So the fourth bottom line is the return to you. How did it help you grow spiritually? How did it help you become more as a person? And obviously the return to people, planet, and profit are extremely important. But where did you grow? And we talk a lot in the book about really also just the partnership with the pulse, which we call the divine, whatever you want to call it. But beauty, goodness, and truth, how does it help reveal more of your beauty, goodness, and truth, and the beauty, goodness, and truth of those around you? So people are always asking, like, how do you do it? Well, it's really all about your inner work. It's the commerce of you internally and all the aspects of you, which then, relates to the commerce that then transpires out of that with the outer world. And so we take all the outer world things as really feedback that feeds back into that in a journey.
Mm-hmm. So how did you discover like this concept of sacred commerce, just even as a concept, before we get into even more detail on it?
Yeah. Well, my husband and I met 26 years ago, and really through business. We were both, I would say, conscious commerce people. We were both doing, business that was doing good. We were both in the superfood business. And when we met, both of us had really never met anybody that was so kind of believed in magic so much and believed in entrepreneurship and business as a way to create change in our world. And so eventually, after becoming business partners, we also then married. And on our honeymoon, we went to Egypt on a tour of all the sacred sites. And that's where we met the god Bes in one of the temples, who's the god of the merchant priesthood. And we started hearing about the merchant priesthood of Old Egypt. And at that time, commerce and the merchant priests, as they were called, were revered as extremely high, that it was the highest priesthood you could attain. So you would have to learn how to be a healing priest and a temple priest and a scribe priest before you could get your kind of PhD equivalent, which was to become a merchant priest. And the reason that you had to be so highly trained is because they considered the merchant priests to be in charge of the peace and prosperity of the nation. So it wasn't, profit for personal gain. You were literally responsible for the peace and prosperity of the nation because you were the one that was going out and interacting with your neighbors. So it was revered and held as a very sacred act to be a merchant priest in those days.
I mean, basically, think about that. Instead of just getting your MBA because you can study how to make a profit, you actually thought, well, what is the consequence of making a profit? We are living in this world where people have so devalued what means anything. It's like, well, money matters. The trees that you cut down to give you paper and give you oxygen that you breathe, they don't really matter. The water, the oceans that give us life, literally, water and oxygen and so much more. Like, no. They don't matter. it's like what actually matters in this superficial, artificial reality of commerce that we're creating. Oh, don't blame don't blame me. I'm just the middleman. I'm just the merchant. If I'm,
Right.
it's just this psyche that is really out of sync with the harmonious way that we're supposed to be existing on this planet, in tune with nature. We are nature. We are extensions of it. We're not separate from it. We're not some like alien creatures. We might have alien ancestry. That's a little different story, but it doesn't mean that we're not still born of the earth through a process that gives us life. And you even think about like the nature of economics and how we're living in this nature of constant debt. Like you're born in debt, you're born in sin. Well, that's a very dark mentality if you think about it. The sun doesn't say, "Hey, I gave you light yesterday, you owe it back to me today." See, I don't make light. That's like the Federal Reserve. I don't print money. How can I pay you back with money that with interest? It's like, well, I gave it to you yesterday, you owe it back to me today. So that's the systems they've created, right?
And that's primarily, if you think about it, really because of the sacred and the feminine being stripped from commerce, which makes it into this kind of base transaction of goods, with no thought to everything that goes around that. And that's why we call it sacred commerce, really bringing the feminine and the sacred back into that interaction. Changes the whole way you think about it. Because if it's a sacred interaction, then you have to think about all the repercussions down the line.
Can you give us give us an example of how a sacred commerce model should look? Like how should a society function essentially? Or at least just even if it's just one economy to give us a sample of what it looks like.
Well, I mean, I don't know if we think about it in those ways, because as I said, we really think about sacred commerce as your relationship to yourself. And so your interactions in the world, if there are sacred interactions, I mean, the sacred is made up of mystery, beauty, love, and enchantment. So when you're doing something, then you're really looking at the impact of that, not only today, but down the line. So you're looking at the impact on people, planet, and profit, but you're also looking at how you yourself become more. So that commerce of relationships, like, my personal growth is not just from, my husband, who obviously your closest people are your biggest mirrors, but I now have like hundreds of mirrors because I have all the people that I work with. So when you're taking all of those as your feedback from the world into, who you are as a person, then you're constantly evolving very fast. So it's kind of a spiritual practice in a way. I mean, we take it as part of our spiritual practice. But the result of doing that is businesses, so part of the result is what I would call conscious commerce. So you get businesses that think about their impact much more, and you get, I mean, for us, we are showcasing it by all of our companies. We work in disrupting media, education, and commerce, and we've been working in those three areas for the last 25 years. And our main purpose is really to upgrade our education system with emotional literacy, to bring back the feminine and the sacred into the business area. That's through our consulting and our incubation of businesses. And media, having, we did a lot of TV series for children with high EQ characters. So just emotionally intelligent content. But for everyone, it's different because it's such a personal relationship with yourself.
Absolutely. And I think this is the beauty of the world that we've been given. It's like we're living in a world where I know from educational perspective, they tell us, oh, there's too many people. We have to hate the people. And it's like, well, the actual, like, the planet itself could sustain us if we were smarter about how we interact with it. It's not that. Absolutely. It's literally like it's the mentality by which we live, which is to say, like, let's just be like the consumers are over here in America. We're going to have the most powerful currency. So we're not going to work and like produce things anymore. We're just service based and credit based. We have massive credit card debts and all that. So we'll just sit here, basically with the banking system protecting us. And then, you go around the world and people are, literally working in slave conditions that allow us to live the life that we're living. And it's like, how out of sync, how out of tune are we with the fact that everyone here has something to offer? Everyone here is here by the gift, I believe, of a creator, but you can at least say like the gift of the earth, and doesn't ask for, your mother doesn't say like, oh, my womb gave birth to you. Now you owe me for those 9 months. You owe me rent.
Hopefully she doesn't. Like, mom, really?
Or like you lived with me. Now you owe me rent the rest of your life. Could you imagine if your parents were like this this mercenary mentality of world that we live in? It's like, now you owe us for being here, as opposed to saying, no, you're a blessing. You're a gift. You actually, Jenny's abilities are different from my abilities, different from Gabby's, different from Casey's. Everyone has these skills. Everyone has a power, and if we had more of a round table system, as opposed to a hierarchical system, we'd be nurturing those, as opposed to saying, well, whoever gets to the top is the successful one. If you get to the top of the pyramid, no matter if you're a sociopath, a criminal, look, in history, it's like you could be a slaveholder, a murderer, rapist, like how many things, but hey, he made a lot of money. So we're going to say he was a successful guy. And then you look back and like, I would never want to be that person. You never want to be Genghis Khan.
I know. I feel like we've given ungodly powers to this thing called money. I mean, the fact that you can, the things that you can do because you have money, the things that you can pay for with money, it's like incredible, that people can do that. We've given it ungodly powers.
It is godly. I mean, it's literally like, and I would say satanic. Let's say it's satanic powers, right? I mean, how many people have literally broken the law and they're like, oh, my buddy's, the justice over here in the courts, and I can bribe these lawyers, because the lawyers really oftentimes are just mercenary, right? And it's like across the board. I mean, the medical industry, we see it. It's like so evident.
If you look at, we're in a trade-based society. So essentially anything we do is trade. So you and I can trade something, and we've created this idea of money to make us feel better about the trade that we're doing, right? So it's here, I'll give you this piece of paper that literally is just a slave system. In sense, if you wanted to break it, then you could break it by doing trade.
We know the one thing you can't put a price on that we all trade every second.
Energy?
Breath. Air. We're trading our air for free.
It is.
Someone's going to have to monetize it.
Well, it's interesting. Somebody told me a theory once about like let's say I had a paperclip, right? And I went to some, like, of all of us in the room, and I said, I have this paperclip, but I really need a pen. Does anyone here have a pen? And I got a pen from somebody. And then from that pen, I said, I really need, a piece of paper. Does someone else have a piece of paper? And slowly but surely, you can actually build your wealth just simply based off of trading and interacting with people, and doing that on a level that has no ego base, but it's just a base of, oh, let me do this for you. And that's, we've gotten really far away from that. Yeah,
that's certainly, I think, where we're moving in a way. I mean, certainly sacred commerce is an aspect of where I see things like the blockchain and the local, like, basically like sort of communities that are existing on trade base or barter basis. You see it like Burning Man every year, but they're literally people that are doing this more and more, it feels, and then are realizing we don't have to go to the corporation, the corporate store to shop, right? We can just, we literally can grow it. I mean, how do you say, shop local, be more conscious of the chain of production that goes into it. So, how have you experienced that, Rowan, over your time in business? Have you seen this growth of, basically trade-based, or at least being more mindful of, like, who we're interacting with and shopping with?
In my personal life, definitely. And I think, I am someone that was raised and lives quite far outside of the mainstream, which is why I've, been involved in developing, more kind of maybe new thought type things. But I think as we develop our emotional mastery and we access, what I call it, our inner assets, our inner wealth, our self values, and grow them, people feel us. And people, the generosity that I've just been on the road for 5 months with my son and my husband, and the abundance that has followed us everywhere, just in terms of people and homes and access to resources. And, we're on the road with 2 suitcases, but that abundance of humanity, I feel like, is coming in more and more, especially as people start thinking about all these, moving away from the pure money systems. People are just, acting out of generosity and out of their inner assets more than the external.
Exactly. The thing I was just thinking about was how we could literally create our own economies, right? I mean, we literally could create our own societies where we say, you actually have to have like a certain quality of character to transact with us. And literally imagine how like the world would start shifting if people start saying, you know what, we're not going to transact with, people that are just pigs, evil, malicious, have like, it's like go do your inner work and then come back and transact with us. But until then, unless you have dignity, you just can't transact. And we could literally create heaven on earth, I would say, like, because it's like a gated community where St. Peter's at the gate, basically saying, you don't check out, you don't have the credibility. This was kind of what initially, like, banking and other practices were supposed to be about. It was supposed to be like character and quality of like, hey, we're going to give you credit because, you have character and you're known to be someone with integrity, to like honor, their debts and honor people and have like a good intention towards what you want to create.
Right.
But then banking got turned into this thing about, no, let's just create a debt slave farm, basically. Everyone's going to be in debt. They can never pay off the rest of their life. Great. Pass it on to your kids or, cut a deal at some point. So the whole thing shifted. But we literally should be living these heavens on earth. We should be able to create this based on, we see it in the film business. Like, we have like talented people all around that want to create, and then it's like the parasites come along and they're like, nope, you can't talk to this person. We're going to put up a wall around them, and we're going to basically suck their soul away with drugs and alcohol and other things until they're basically mind controlled by the system. And you lose the idea of, no, it's just about people who are like-minded, coming together, starting to cooperate, starting to transact, wanting to put money into each other's pockets because they like them. And if we just shift the psyche, imagine there was plenty of billionaires and there are plenty of people that have no money that would all be transacting based on character, based on just integrity and just the fact of their inner light, if you want to call it that, and the ability to say, look, we want to work with people we want to work with, not just because you have, money. That doesn't make you attractive as a human being energetically to us.
And I think that really happens. The more people, recognize their own inner values, the more the outside world reflects that to them in what comes to them. And that's really, in the book, there's kind of a path, which is the path of the emotional alchemist. So to be able to, use your inner energy, your emotions as the fuel to fuel your life. And we do a training on that as well. But I think the more that you sort out the gunk inside of you, and of course, we have to remember that the world is always reflecting us. The more we change and the more we turn up our light, the more it reflects outside of us, because people are drawn to that and it changes them,
Precisely. And so just, to get into this feel.org, as I understand it, right, the idea of like promoting emotional intelligence, promoting the necessity of feeling in our world. It's so interesting because on one level, we're very sensitive beings, and the other level, it's like we have a society that basically says, well, feeling doesn't matter. So I was watching this conversation between Daphne Takover, who was questioning the FCC chairman, and she's saying, look, based on thousands of papers of research, we see that there's definite harm that's created especially in children, but in people by Wi-Fi, wireless frequencies, and like the radiation from it. And she basically saying, like, I'm someone that's electrosensitive. So essentially it's not majority, like it's only 10, 20% of the people that are very electrosensitive. But as we're amplifying the Wi-Fi frequency in LA, for example, blasting people with this 5G, that's extremely powerful wireless, radiation. And like, she's asking, like, FCC, why are you not doing the research into like the harm that you're causing, and aren't you considering this? And the FCC chairman is kind of like, I don't know, I just don't know. And then this like one guy's like, I'm the only physician on this council, so you talk about proof. Well, in science, proof is a very rare thing to have. Like, you can't really prove anything. I'm like, look, it's true scientifically. There are very few things that are true. There are very few things that we know to be proven, right? In all of scientific history, it's mostly theories.
Well, even down to the atom. Like, now they're finding even more and more and more about it.
It's infinite,
right?
Like infinite new. There's always like it's proven to 80% or 90% or even 99%, but there's still 1% that doesn't add up. So we live in a world though that wants to hijack everything with proof and facts and logic,
right?
And actually, that's not necessarily how humans are designed. We're actually not necessarily designed because we see a world that actually is, like you said, it's atomic, it's subatomic, it's morphic, it's changing. So why are we so beholden to someone else's facts that may have, frankly, look, 9 out of 10 times it might be right. That 1 out of 10 time is just as real as the other 9.
Well,
So
sorry.
we have to be more in tune with our feelings and our emotions and our sense of, look, this doesn't feel right to me, even though rationally speaking, you're crazy. We have to at least value people's feelings and have space for that.
I think there's room for everything and everyone. And the unfortunate thing about the society that we have and the pressures that we've put together is this idea that we have to take somebody down or we have to win and there's no room, especially in the film industry. There's like,
Not just film, it's every industry.
Every industry. People are like, no, I have to be on top. I have to take you down. And if you just relax in the idea of there's room for everyone, there's space for all of us, and you'll vibrate on a completely different frequency,
Mm-hmm. So in terms of the field, like it sounds like you guys are doing some amazing work, especially, with kids to try to educate them emotionally. Like emotional intelligence is something I never heard until my first girlfriend when I was like 20. I was like, emotional intelligence, what is that?
Yeah.
Well, you were 20.
You don't
And a
learn
man.
it.
No, I'm kidding.
Unfortunately, you're normal. I mean, sadly, most of us have learned what emotional intelligence we have as grown-ups, and often through having to go to therapy and whatever because of all the traumas that we hadn't dealt with. But really, in an ideal situation, emotional literacy, you would start with emotional literacy, which is what field.org is all about teaching emotional literacy, which is just the ability to kind of recognize and name and express your feelings, to realize that you're angry, to be able to stop and pause rather than to just have it happen to you and to be carried by it and to have to then, blow something up.
Mm-hmm.
But if you actually look at all the societal ills that we are the most worst, whether it's, drug abuse or greed or theft or marital issues, at the base of them is an emotion that went unchecked for so long, it ended up blowing up.
Right.
The school shootings, what is that? It's an anger that went unchecked, turned to a rage, became so massive that they had to explode it out of themselves in this rage.
Mm-hmm.
But if they had had the language and the capacity to be able to talk about their angers and to realize, all of our emotions are just messages. They're really, in a way, how we communicate with our inner self, with our soul, with our higher self, whatever you want to call it. But they are our energy. So anger is a message that something is not happening the way you want it in your reality.
Mm-hmm.
It's a message. It's a call to action. And you need to up-level it. When you transform anger to its higher octave, it becomes the courage to do something about it, which then gives you the passion, the energy to actually act on that. So anger is an amazing tool. Those people that don't know anger don't know passion, and we all want to have passion, So, this kind of labeling of negative and positive emotions, I don't believe in at all. All emotions have a negative and a positive impact depending on how they're expressed.
Beautiful.
And so what emotional literacy is all about is just really learning that simple expression. And if you learn it when you're a kid, we teach it for 4 to 11-year-olds. It can be as easy as drawing an angry face and you've got the energy out of you, Whereas when we're older, like we might need to punch a pillow or go into meditation and, pretend to punch someone just for the release of it,
Well, yeah,
But
in arts, though,
yeah.
I mean, this is why, to me, it's like the arts we need to have a renaissance. There is nothing else that's going to save humanity except art. It's our own creativity. This is why we're here.
It was what we were born to do. Right.
Art
Is
is
to create.
art is the root of heart for a reason, right?
Yeah, because it all comes from emotion. It's all expression of your feelings.
Mm-hmm.
The base of it.
And so,
yeah.
it's interesting that because it all comes together to me in this nature of commerce and feeling. It's the arts. And so we're in a world, though, think about it, like we're in a world that literally is like, oh, you want to be an artist? Good luck. Ha! Good luck. Oh, because some people have they have the conception that, like, in order to be a successful artist, you have to be famous or you have to be rich. So basically you go into an industry. So you sell yourself, your arts, all that gets sold by the wayside. Let's say you kind of drop it because it becomes about the industry. What does the industry want? How can I sell myself to be famous? Yeah. And you let go of the art. We need to promote arts in this society like crazy, everywhere. It has to be in schools. It has to be out of schools. It has to be in a way like, first of all, whoever if you look at even the economy around art, and you go in to make something, how many people are employed? How many people are involved and engaged in that creative endeavor? Instead we have a society that says, well, we'll spend $1 trillion on the war machine and surveillance machine for war. So at the end of it, you can blow up a missile, but no one, it's like at the end of a movie, if you employ thousands of people in the process of making a movie or a TV show, and you're feeding them and having hotels and transport and everything to come together, and the community is actually prospering from that endeavor, let's say, and you actually have something to share at the end of it. We're seeing more and more of this in our society with more and more streaming networks and videos, and like people are really so. But if we promote that as an overall society, I think we'll have much more health, because there won't be a missile at the end of that. There'll literally be, hey, I put my anger out into that project, into that film, into that TV show, that piece of music.
I think that's why this upcoming Generation X, is so well aware of their surroundings, and they're so aware of their mental state, because everyone is growing up with a phone. Everyone is growing up with a creative outlook. You can make a movie with a 3-year-old could make a movie if you wanted to.
So
everyone is gifted the chance to have the technology that really wasn't available wildly until the 2000s.
Exactly. It's getting more and more practical. So that's, to me, like the next level evolution of sacred commerce. I really think people should check out your book. It's called Sacred Commerce, correct?
Yep. Sacred Commerce, A Blueprint for a New Humanity.
And it's available on Amazon and also sacredcommerce.com, if I'm correct. The
Absolutely.
name. Yeah. So, I mean, I would certainly suggest people go there for more information, because we're out of time here at the studio. But it's always a pleasure to talk to you, Rowan. I would love to speak to you further as we can unpack more of these concepts around, basically how we're going to evolve, I think, a new economic systems in this century. And it's really going to begin with this notion about the sacred.
Thank you so much. I agree with you very much. And we would love people to go to feel.org and sign the Declaration for Emotional Literacy.
Done. Feel.org. Thank you. Thank you, Rowan.
Thank you. It was a real pleasure.
We need the beauty, honor, the sacred, divine masculine, divine feminine, divine child. That's the themes for today's Buzzsaw 2020 or Buzzsaw 2020. Take your pick. We are heading to the future.
This has been a Monument Production.